Hey everyone, it's Sun Types, and today I'm joined by Uncommon Fossil, and we are going through a bracket fights. If some of you have followed the community tab on my channel these past few days, you may have noticed that I've been posting a lot of polls about which cards you enjoy more or less. And these cards don't have any particular value; they're all good in current standard, or at least pretty all right. And I wanted to try this out. I really enjoy making tier list, and the bracket fights seems really cool. It's like the same thing as tier maker. I think I have a link to one of the other ones I'm going to be doing upcoming, another bracket fights tournament. But this one, it's me versus Uncommon Fossil, and we're going to be seeing which of us, we both made predictions beforehand. We're going to see which of us was more accurate. And of course, I have the results that you all voted on. And if you didn't vote, there will be more of these, I think. So you can check out the community tab to be involved in those. But let's just hop into the first round. Let's go into the classic matchup mode. So first of all, Uncommon Fossil, what did you choose? This is Reggie Draco versus Reggie Alecki.
I went with Reggie Draco. Of course, we did talk about Reggie Alecki in our podcast, but
I think we also talked about Reggie Draco on the podcast.
yeah, that's probably right.
So why did you choose that one?
I think it's a more appealing, more intriguing Pokemon. It's got the flexibility of pairing with any other dragon attackers you want, so it's just a little more interesting. I think the lightning with the buff is okay, but it just seems more limited in its uses.
Yeah, and I also formed that this question as which is your favorite. I also went with Reggie Draco. I think it's pretty cool and more versatile. Reggie like is kind of boring, so and that's also what people went for. 65%, so it wasn't completely dominant, but yeah, Reggie Draco won this match. Oh, it's gonna scroll. Okay, and then the next one, Mew VMAX versus Genesect V. Which did you have?
I went with the Genesect V. Obviously, Mew's the big attacker and the one that gets the talked about, but really, I think it's the Genesect that's the cop attack Mew copies, and it's the engine that keeps the deck going.
Yeah, but like Genesect's the obnoxious part of Mew. I feel like Genesect's like the part that when people say, "Oh, it's so annoying, it's so powerful, and it's fast draw, and it hits like super hard," that's what people are thinking about. I went Mew because it's honestly very similar to Reggie Draco and the fact that it's like a very versatile, it's a somewhat versatile attacker. And I think it's just much more of a cooler Pokemon. Genesect's kind of boring. I enjoy Genesect, but it's certainly pretty obnoxious and also limited in what it does. So I went with VMAX, and the people said Mew VMAX as well. So, with 60%, this is a bit of a weird one. Obviously, they're very like similar cards, but I went with,
Yeah.
I'm gonna exit this this matchup mode thing's kind of weird that it like scrolls. But anyways, yeah. So I got, and we're scrolling this like can I say this March Madness bracket? I'm assuming I can say that. And so it's like, actually there are various ways, but just going a bracket, it's 1 point for the first round, 2 points for the second, 3 for the third, and four for the
One.
third, 8 for the finals. I think.
Yeah, that's probably the most common way to do it.
Yeah. So we're doing it like that. So we'll tally up our scores. Spoilers: neither of us guessed the top one, but yeah, the next one, Curlia versus Malamar. So which one did you go?
I think this one you had to go with Curlia. Obviously, especially for it's your channel, and you've certainly expressed your hate for Malamar over time, and Curlia obviously just lends itself to a lot of different decks.
Yeah, Curlia is definitely more interesting. 45% of the people still said Malamar though. Like
Wow,
what?
that was close.
Yeah, I know, I know. It was like, I think it was Malamar, and then it eventually became Curlia. Malamar just like no, it's no, no, don't vote Malamar. Don't play Malamar. It just not Malamar. So luckily Curlia won this one. And yeah, I also say Curlia. Curlia's really cool. I'm surprised. Obviously, people don't play Curlia that much.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool card. And also it's a single prizer. Most of these are not single prizers, so that's kind of interesting. And then Pumpkaboo versus Dunsparce. I'm assuming you went Pumpkaboo, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pumpkin would just fit. The idea it just fits into a lot more decks. Dunsparce is obviously just limited to colorless, which obviously narrows it down a lot.
Yeah, Dunsparce is kind of like boring. I mean, Pumpkaboo is also pretty boring. That's why they're paired up against each other.
Hmm.
Obviously Dunsparce, like there are some people who like it. You play it. Well, no, you don't play in Blissey Miltanker, do you?
I haven't been. I can play it in Lugia. I am playing it in Lugia right now.
Yeah, I think that's part of another part of the reason why people don't like Dunsparce. It's kind of toxic with Lugia and Arceus. Um,
Yeah.
Pumpkaboo isn't really like toxic. Sure, it does see play in like Lugia and Arceus, but it doesn't make the deck overpowered. And it also like does something. Dunsparce doesn't do anything. Most people said Pumpkaboo, which makes a lot of sense. Oh, how is this bracket working? I'm exiting matchup mode. Um, and then Mewtwo V Union versus Flying Pikachu V Max. So what should you go with there?
I went with the obvious choice. I went with the card that helped define the World Championship deck, Flying Pikachu VMAX.
Just for that reason.
That was a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the top, in one of the top decks in recent history. So yes.
Yeah, I also went with Flying Pikachu. I thought that it's cool because it's one I like playing. It's kind of a funny one. It's certainly like somewhat versatile as well. Both of these Pokemon are actually pretty similar. Flying Pikachu is probably a bit better in Universal, but they're both pseudo control style cards. But people actually went with Mewtwo V Union. I think because they like the V Union mechanic. It's certainly one of the most unique Pokemon on this list. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
probably the most unique because it's like it has this really cool mechanic, which I guess like attracts people. It wasn't like this one was pretty far in favor of Mewtwo. Um, and I get it. I guess it's a fun Pokemon. They're both fun, right? I think these are two of the cooler
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon in the game right now. They're also a bit obnoxious to play against, so that's something to keep in mind. Flying Pikachu is
Yeah.
probably more obnoxious because if you're playing Lugia, Palkia, Reggie's, Lost Box, pretty much like half the decks in the game don't like Flying Pikachu.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the next one is Arceus versus Palkia. I went with Arceus because it's just more versatile. It's more unique, more interesting, um, and it's less like obnoxious to play against because it doesn't do as much damage.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I went with Arceus also. I mean, Palkia can, when it sets up, can be overpowering, which isn't fun. But Arceus works with any V Pokemon as its partner, so it's nice for the options. And obviously, the V Star power really just again helps you set up, makes so many decks work.
Yeah, and a bunch of the people said Arceus. It wasn't like super dominant, but um, I mean, I get why Palkia. Some people enjoy Palkia. It's certainly an enjoyable Pokemon. I don't think it's that like obnoxious or toxic. So it's certainly nothing like crazy if you said Palkia, but more people said Arceus because it is more like versatile and stuff. And then Lugia versus Urshifu. I think this is the most dominant one, and I went with Urshifu here because let's be honest, like why do you vote for Lugia? Urshifu's like cool, and Lugia is not.
See, this was a matter of how were you grading things, right? And how were people going to
I
judge
said, which
things,
is
right?
your favorite? Like no one's like, you know what I love? I
People
love
like winners.
Lugia.
And if you want to win, you play Lugia, right? Lugia is great. It dominates. People like winners. Urshifu is more interesting. If it was which is the most interesting, I would have said Urshifu, which is the best. I like a winner. It's Lugia.
Yeah. Well, I'll do the good old plug now. Go like and subscribe if you don't want to play against Lugia anymore because yeah, Lugia lost like 30% of the people said Lugia. I mean, I guess
Wow.
certainly Lugia is like a can be fun to play. It's very powerful, but like it did kind of sucks to play against as well, and it's kind of inconsistent as well. It's very janky. It like sets
Yeah.
up turn two or it just doesn't. And then the game's decided by the second turn of the game. Certainly by the third. So I mean, Urshifu can be toxic as well. With
Mhm.
this like spread aspect, but yeah, I feel like between those two, you like Urshifu more, right?
Yeah, I mean Urshifu was a fun deck. Now Urshifu was a bully too back in the day, but it's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
a
but
while, so
yeah,
people
yeah,
have
we don't
forgotten
talk
that.
about
I
that.
think, right? Lugia is the bully
hmm
today.
Yeah, and I feel like Urshifu is more dominant. Like Urshifu is the bully, quote unquote bully, when Baby Mew was in the format, which was a bench barrier.
Yeah.
So it wasn't actually that like oppressive. I mean, it was the top deck, but it also countered like Pikarom and Eternatus, which were very good decks. So it was
Yeah.
a very good deck. But I feel like Lugia is just more obnoxious to play against. Um, and then the last one, Radiant Greninja versus Suinguja V-Star. I said Radiant Greninja. They're both pretty cool Pokemon. Radiant Greninja is very versatile though, and it's also very it's like fun, and you can attack with it. You can use its ability. I haven't made a card analysis. If I haven't, I'm going to. It's
I,
a very well designed card and a very
mhm.
fun card as well.
Yeah, I mean, this one's an interesting match because they're very dissimilar cards, right? One's the attacking V-Star, the other Radiant Greninja, which is what I voted for, is primarily a setup card. It can go in just so many decks for setup, and obviously some decks can attack with it. It can be, and it's a nice option in those decks too.
Yeah, so um, and Radiant Greninja won by a sizable margin as well. Um, yeah, and surprisingly, actually, never mind. I think these are all like very solid votes though. A lot of them are very similar, right? Like deciding between Mew and Genesect is kind of weird because like no one like really says, oh, which is better, Mew or Genesect, because they're like the
Right.
same thing. But
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, and also if you want to see, I am gonna do another one of these soon. But if you want to see certain specific like styles of cards, or if you want to see decks, whatever, so leave that down below in the comments or in my community tab. You can leave that somewhere. Um, Oh, and also while I'm plugging it, I should probably plug your channel. Go check out Uncommon Fossil. Link in the
Thanks.
description. But yeah, next bracket, and this is the first one. The second round, this is going to be. Oh, and also let's do a points recap. So for the first round, I got 7 out of the 8 right. Surprisingly, I only got Mewtwo wrong. And then how many do you get right?
I
Oh,
got
there goes Mewtwo.
5. So because I picked Genesect, which is wrong, Flying Pikachu, and Lugia.
Yeah, I don't know why you picked Lugia, but okay, now next one is Mew VMAX versus Reggie Draco, and I picked Reggie Draco because I thought it was like again, this is the same mentality as like Lugia, like why like no one likes Mew. It's less. I'd say Mew's probably more obnoxious. The Mew deck is anyway. Not necessarily the Mew Pokemon though. Mew VMAX itself is probably more interesting. Um, in the fact that um it can like attack easier. Like Reggie Draco can't really attack. It doesn't see too much play. But I went with Reggie Draco because I think it's cooler.
Yeah, for me, the matchup was Genesect versus Reggie Drago, and I went with Genesect, figuring,
Ah,
which obviously didn't win, which is
yeah,
obviously not the right one there. So, what can I say?
yeah. But yeah. UV Max won. It was kind of close, but it wasn't like super close. I guess yeah. As I said, like UV Max sees more play and it's still kind of interesting. They're sort of similar. Really, Reggie Draco as like a quote unquote toolbox deck only like it only has like a few tools. It has honestly the same amount of tools as Mew, which is kind of weird to think about.
Yeah, because Mew we think of as being very narrow in what it has, and we tend to think of Reggie Drago as having a good number of options, but
Yeah.
not really true.
I mean, it is, but most of the Regigigas options just aren't very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are obviously a number of Fusion Strike Pokemon. Just they're mostly ones you'd never want to attack with.
Yeah, and there are more Dragon Pokemon than Fusion Strike Pokemon. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure, and they're going to be in the future. But, uh,
Yeah.
anyways, next one, Curlia versus Pumpku. I think this one's pretty obvious. And this one I think was the most decisive. It's Curlia, right? I chose Curlia.
Yeah.
Pumpku doesn't really like do anything. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I picked Corellia too, right? All right, Pumpkin is just boring. It you use it when you play it down, and it just sits there until it gets knocked out, or you can scoop it up. So
Yeah. And then on the other side of the bracket, we have the next matchup, which is Mewtwo, which both of us got wrong, versus Arceus, which both of us got right. And I went with Arceus because, I mean, it's cool, right? It's versatile, sees a bunch of play, and it's just a cool Pokemon.
yeah, and I went with Arceus too. It just because that versatility opens up a lot of deck possibilities, which opens up a lot of V's which wouldn't be usable otherwise.
Yeah. And then people surprisingly voted for Mewtwo V Union. Again, I guess being attracted to that like unique mechanic, and just like the idea of I don't know, it's cool. Maybe they're control players. I know I make a lot of videos on control. I haven't made a few of those in a while, but yeah, it's obviously a control card. And like Arceus was also a bit obnoxious to play against. It was very good. Although I say Mewtwo V Union's gotta be more obnoxious to play against because like a control deck, and most people don't enjoy playing against those. But yeah, I
Yeah.
guess people are just like attracted to the V Union aspect of it. And just like spread attack and high damage attack, they're pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, playing against control is not fun, which is why I didn't go with it. But it does have that options of different attacks that can be interesting. The control, or it can do some good damage if you need to.
Yeah, and then Urshifu VMAX versus Radiant Greninja. I had Urshifu because I think like Radiant Greninja is kind of cool, but Urshifu was like it's a deck that's more powerful, and I think it stands out more to me. Radiant Greninja often just kind of hides in the background, just like a cool card, well designed card. But it's not like as it's not as like meaningful as Urshifu to me.
Yeah, and I had Lugia versus Greninja, and I went with Lugia, which clearly was not the winner here. My thought there, Radiant Greninja, it's more of a support Pokemon. You kind of use it like a Chinchino make do most of the time, which is fine, but it's not the most interesting thing in some ways too.
Yeah. Unlike Lugia, which is super awesome. But obviously, neither of us won. Radiant Greninja here won. Because Radiant Greninja is like a cool Pokemon, and I'm really surprised
Hmm.
about this. That people are really liking Radiant Greninja and like Curly they didn't really have a choice, but Radiant Greninja's like it's a really fun Pokemon, and it looks like people enjoy it.
Hmm.
And it's a very well designed card, so I'm really happy about that. And then I don't think we really need to keep talking about the matchups because we kept like getting them wrong at this point. So our
Yep.
brackets didn't match up, but against Mew and Curlia, I feel like um uh hold up. Okay. So it looks like the bracket actually is no, okay, I was gonna say it's very close. It's 49-51 when I'm looking at it now. Wow. Okay, but Curlier won this one. Um, I don't think either of us had. I had Regidraco versus Curlier. You had
I
Genesect
had
versus Curlier.
Genesect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
and
do
I
you
have
have winning?
Genesect. I picked Genesect as the winner of that,
Yeah.
so
Uh,
not right.
and I picked Regidraco beating it. Obviously, neither of those are super interesting. I'd say Curlier is a more interesting Pokemon. Instead, right now it's 49-51. It was a bit more decisive, previously, but Curlier won. Because Curlier is like a cool Pokemon, and I'm really happy about this. Right, it seems like people like single prizers, which I get. Curlier is like
Hmm.
just an engine single prizer, but it's really cool. Like in the engine as a whole, of course, with like the Raltses and the other Curlia, and then of course the Gardevoir and Gallade, and then the new Gardevoir EX coming out. Honestly, that's probably a big reason why as well, because
Hmm.
people are just hyped over that new deck. And Curlia is that like debatably, and that's not the most important factor, but it's one of the most important factors to it. And honestly, I'm really hyped for it too. I promise I will be coming out with Scarlet and Violet content very soon. But yeah, Curlia won this one. As I said, it's very close right now, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think the Gardevoir EX helped Curly out because that's probably the most hyped deck for Scarlet and Violet, I would think, of things to try out.
Yeah, it's probably the second best behind like Squovit Mustard, which is very good. But then with the next one, we see Radiant Greninja versus Mewtwo Reunion. Um,
Hmm.
and so I of course said Urshifu was gonna win this matchup, and you said what did you say was gonna win this matchup? Like Lugia or something?
Arceus.
Arceus. Okay. So obviously those aren't right, but yeah. So Radiant Greninja versus Mewtwo Reunion, the two really unique Pokemon, and Radiant Greninja won by a solid chunk here. Because it's just like a cool Pokemon, as I said before. It seems like Mewtwo being hit the end of the road being a control card that people find kind of toxic. So that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, Reading Ninja being just being a clear winner here, I guess, because people like single prizers,
Hmm.
and so the finals is actually a single prizer, even though after the first round there had to be at the very minimum. Like it was mostly multi prizers, so I'm surprised that it
Yeah.
was two single prizers in the finals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you had to get one single prizer on the one side into what the semifinals or whatever, but obviously Greninja being the only single prizer on its side, getting there is certainly a big deal. So, people like single prizers. It makes the game fun, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And then between these two, which do you like more?
Well, see, that's a tricky one. I might say Radiant Greninja. It's just a little more flexible, although, yeah, it's tough. They're so similar between them, right?
I guess I'd say Radiant Greninja because it can be an attacker. It's a very solid attacker, although admittedly it's a bit of a toxic attacker as well. The fact that it can punish certain setup board states, but like it's very
Yeah.
good post rotation. But I think it's not too toxic. Notably, it, like kind of messes up Inteleon engines, but most people aren't playing that right now too much. So yeah, Radiant Greninja is like is the one I'd have to go with.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, Curlia because of the Gardevoir, possibly, but yeah, all in all, Radiant Greninja's a little. more universal.
Yeah, and then that's what people went with, right? Radiant Greninja officially the 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 Pokemon to win this. I was gonna say the GOAT, but I don't know what it's the GOAT of 10 types tournament #1. Yes, that's right. But Radiant Greninja, like I'm very happy about this result. Obviously, I didn't like do super well. I did beat you by like a few points, but we
Yeah.
did not. I don't. I mean, it's not your audience; it's my audience. But I am very proud. I'm very proud that Malamar got voted out in the first round. Thank you so much. But if you want to see more of these types of videos, comment down below what you want to see, like what brackets you want to see or whatever. And also go check out Uncommon Fossil, and of course like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really means a bunch to both of us. And we're just excited to see you in the next video.